Hello, and welcome to Monumental, where we sit down with entrepreneurs, leaders, visionaries, and big thinkers making monumental change. Here's your host, Evan Holiday.
Welcome to Monumental. I'm your host, Evan Holiday, and today on the show we have with us Matt Aitchinson. Matt, how you doing, man?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Doing well. Glad to have you on the show. We've been connected through a mutual friend of ours, Austin Linney, and really have just been able to see you crush it and everything that you're doing. So I'm really excited for today's episode.
Vice versa, man. Vice versa.
Yes. So a little about Matt before we get started. Matt is a multi-seven-figure real estate investor, a business coach, a speaker, and a philanthropist. He's the founder and CEO of The Rich Life, an education and coaching company that helps entrepreneurs create more wealth, freedom, and fulfillment in their life and business through real estate investing. And that's honestly all we're about here at Monumental, is making massive impact in the world and being able to do that through real estate. So I'm excited to jump in. Let's just dive into your background, Matt, and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So for me, it all really, I had a little bit of a turbulent start in the sense of, was really actually great academically. But in my first week of my senior year of high school, I ended up getting into a physical altercation at school and actually got expelled from high school my first week of my senior year. So I went through this entire basically process and checklist to be able to actually graduate with my diploma. And long story short, got through all of that. But that was kind of my first run-in with kind of hardship and being faced with kind of an uphill climb. And this was right after which tied into and had something to do with it, my stepmother, who was kind of a second mom to me from the age of 2 to 17. She got diagnosed with a rare form of cancer on a Saturday, went into the hospital. They diagnosed her and she passed away that Wednesday. So I basically saw someone who, in my eyes, was someone who was doing all the things that you were told to do correctly. She was healthy. She didn't smoke. She worked out. She did right by people and volunteered with charities and causes, worked really, really hard and got rewarded for it. Was a great family person and friend. And then, I saw kind of get dealt a shitty deck of cards and going, man, like you can do all these things right.
Yeah.
Like they tell you to, and there's still the potential of that happening. Why the hell are we doing all these things?
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of that was my first, not only, maybe what I think is the truth may not be the truth. And that's kind of led down to being a little bit more defiant and started hanging around some of the individuals that began to influence my behavior and the environments I was hanging out in and the extracurriculars with drinking and smoking that I was doing. And that led me to the results that I got my first year, my senior year of high school. And I remember kind of going, all right, like this isn't me. I'm gonna straighten up. I'm gonna get back on the straight and narrow, being that I have to get into college because that's what I need to do. That's what had kind of always been preached to me. My dad was the first and only person in our family to go to college. I'm the second. And I ended up getting into UC Santa Barbara. Of all the schools that basically knew about my expulsion and also saw the expungement, they were the one that accepted me. And by the grace of God, I got in there. It was an amazing opportunity. But long story short, on this second scenario was actually who thinks lightning strikes twice in the same place? Well, I created that second lightning strike, and I actually ended up getting in a scenario again where physical altercation. This time I got arrested. It was a felony assault and battery because there was actually, broken bones. And I was 19 at the time. And I remember coming out of my blackout in jail, and I looked to my left, and there's this big gnarly dude, like 6'6", in biker leathers, just tatted from head to toe. And I looked to my right, and there's this Hispanic guy, gang member, has XIV tatted on his face. And I look around, and I'm like, holy shit, like this is my new environment. This is my new tribe. This is my new reality. And that was my big oh shit moment in life, going, God, if I get a second chance, I will not waste it. And I remember the day I got the phone call saying that the gentleman was dropping the charges, and this was basically me walking away scot-free. And that was that was kind of a spiritual moment for me, in the sense of, I know not a lot of people are gifted second chances or even third chances, kind of like I was. And I knew that I was going to ensure that I wouldn't waste it. And so I really took that opportunity seriously. And that led me to getting hired on by an entrepreneur in Santa Barbara. And I finished my last 3 years of school out. I was working 40 hours a week. I started out as a cold caller, making $10 an hour for him, and worked my way up over those 3 years to kind of being his right-hand guy. And he had exposed me to this idea of entrepreneurship. And so when I graduated school and I was interviewing at all of these places for $30,000, $40,000 jobs with this expensive piece of paper that I had that really I didn't think I was going to do anything with, I said, this just isn't going to get me to my goals. This isn't going to align. The path that I'm on is not aligned with this vision that I have for my life. And I think everybody has that vision, right? Of like,
Yeah.
I want a big life. I want to be my own boss. I want the freedom and flexibility. I want to, make an impact in people's lives. I want that sexiness of a lifestyle, right? Not having to stress and have that financial security. And I just didn't see that with what opportunities were in front of me. So I remember reading my sophomore year of college, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I picked that back up, read it again. Crazy how many people that book has inspired, right? And I ended up going on Craigslist and started hunting and searching real estate. And I came across one of those ads of, real estate intern, work for me for free, up to $10,000 a month kind of thing. And I ended up going. It was, basically them recruiting me to kind of be free labor and bird dog and hunt out deals. But I ended up coming across and meeting, which was my first mentor. And this guy was flipping a couple hundred houses a year back in 2010, when you could basically just sneeze and come across a great deal and make $50K a pop.
Yeah.
And I was seeing all of the checks that he was clipping, and I saw how little of the work he was doing. And I saw all the work that I was doing and how basically no money I was making. And I realized in that moment that I have all of the tools and resources and ability to go out and do this for myself. And so I started kind of side hustle as I was working for him, started going out and hanging bandit signs and door knocking houses. And that led me to my very first flip, the cat lady house. I got a lot of love for cat lady houses, minus the pee and the trash that was in the house. She was a hoarder. I ended up closing that deal, funding it 100% of other people's money, because at this point I was still living at home with my dad. Obviously had no credit. I think I had $800 in my savings at that time, all kinds of credit card debt. And of course I'm going, I remember signing that contract, and I walked out of the house and I was like doing the, Aaron Rodgers discount double check, the Tiger Woods fist pump. And then I had this, oh shit, like, how am I actually going to buy this house? I don't have any money. There's no way I can qualify.
Yeah.
I've never bought a house before. And I remember one of my first mentors saying, if you have a real deal on your hands, I promise you the money will find a way to that deal. And she was right. I ended up funding that deal 100% using other people's money, on a private money first and a hard money second. And I ended up netting, after paying out all the investors, first and second investor, $106,000 on that very first deal at 21.
Wow.
And I remember going, okay, I just need to go and find more great opportunities and build the right relationships, and I'll figure out how to connect all the other dots. And over the last 10 years, I've flipped a couple hundred houses. I've built up a multi-7-figure rental portfolio in the single family side, and last few years broken into the commercial space, buying retail strip, and now a little hotel up in Lake Tahoe. And I've been following people like you, brother, and other amazing, leaders and influencers in the commercial space that are doing amazing things. And I've been really working on sharpening my axe to start swinging more and consistently swinging more at the tree trunk of commercial real estate and some development. So that's where I'm playing right now.
Man, I love it. I love all of it. That's a phenomenal story. It seems like, time and again, you were able to pick yourself up after, what seems like a crazy blow to your progress and your growth as a person and a human. And, starting with your stepmom, I mean, that's life altering, life shattering, and being able to pick yourself up from that. And then the two in high school and college. And then, it seems like to me, it's like a series of realizations that you're having along the way, along your journey, and you're acting on those realizations. You're not just, taking them in, but you're actually acting on them. And I think that is a massive clue as to where you are today, is you're actually taking action on every single thing that you're learning and you're taking in.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's this, it's a double-edged sword of, I do believe life rewards velocity, and especially in the context of real estate investing, moving quickly is important, but at the same time, not at the expense of the details and overlooking important things and being present in the moment. And so for me, it's always been a fail forward mentality of going, I don't need to have it all figured out. I've always known this about myself, and I learned this at an early age. I played basketball, and I was always the one token white guy with all my brothers. And I was never the fastest. I was never the tallest. I could never jump the highest. I was never the strongest, but I was always one of the hardest working people out there. And so I've always banked on my ability to go, I don't need to have it all figured out. I just need to, one, make sure that I have an obsessive work ethic over the things that I can control and do matter. And then I need to surround myself with world-class people that challenge me, inspire me, lift me up, are smarter than me, are more skilled than me, are more resourceful than me. And I know that through those relationships, I can fill in the gaps that I see and have in, whether it's a real estate investment deal or in, personal relationships or in a business or whatever it may be. So that's kind of always been my mentality of going, I'm a connector. I know what my skill sets are. I'm a connector. I'm a problem solver. I'm a hard worker, and continuing to double down on those things and know when it's time to delegate or when it's time to strategically align with other people. And that's just allowed me, in my opinion, to kind of hack my way to some of the milestones that I've hit a little bit faster, because I have been able to know my shortcomings and also where I'm great at, and really amplify those things.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's one of the first things a lot of people forget to take into account is take a self check of what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, know what you're good at, and double down on that, and find team members or partners that can help fill in the roles where you don't feel like you're adequate or you don't feel like you're at your best,
Right.
or may not be the highest and best use of your time either.
Yeah, that's a hard thing too, right? Because most of us, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're in control of your own destiny, giving up control is a big challenge, right? And I'm still guilty of that to this day, but at the same time, I've also, been working on that a lot, knowing that you can't be the best at everything, and you gotta, if you're trying to do that in your own business, whether it's putting a deal together or it's hiring an employee or it's trying to take some project to the next level, if you try and control everything, you're going to rob the people around you of what they're world class at and what value they can really bring to that opportunity or that space or that project. And so that's just an awareness thing, I think. And, I catch myself like, okay, nope, that's your thing. You got this. Like, let me get out of your way, because I'm not doing anybody any good trying to do that.
Exactly. Let's go back to that first deal, that $100,000 first deal. That's pretty phenomenal.
Yes, my cat lady.
The cat lady house. So how did that come about? How many deals did you have to look at before that? And then also, how did you get the gumption and the brass to pull that off?
Yeah. So it took me about 8 months to find that first deal. And this was me, a lot of people go, oh, can I find my first deal in 30 days or is it going to take me a year? And I say, I don't know. I don't know, to be completely honest, because what's required of me to find my first deal could be completely different of what's required for you to find your first deal. Like what's required for, Barry Bonds to hit a home run versus what's required for you and I to go hit a home run. Two completely different things, because there's so many different variables and backstory and context and skills, right? So I always tell people, I don't know. But for me, that first deal, what was required for me to find that first deal when I was literally working, I was working 70, 80 hours, a week, if not more. And was I efficient with that 80 hours a week? I don't know, right? But I was hustling, right, to kind of lay the backstory there. And I found that first opportunity, and it really had all of the, key signs of a motivated seller. They were looking to move his mom out of state closer to them. She couldn't keep up with the house anymore. They had financial hardship. And it was also getting tagged as a health hazard because she literally was the cat lady of the neighborhood. She had over 100. Once I purchased the home, she had over 100 stray cats coming and going into that house at all times. And we found 6 dead cats and a raccoon in the house underneath all the trash.
Wow.
So she didn't even know if Sally or Johnny or, Pepe was, missing that day, because they were probably under all the trash. But I remember I signed that contract and I walked out of there and I said, okay, I have this opportunity here. Like, I knew what the potential profit was on the other end. And I don't know about you, the listener, going, if you knew you had a potential $100,000 payday on this other side of this puzzle, and you had all these pieces on the table, and you just had to figure out how to put all these pieces together to cash in on that $100 payday, what would you do? You would do absolutely anything and everything, and believe that you're capable of putting that together. You just need to spend enough time on it. And so that's what I did. I went to work and going, all right, what's the next step here? Right? Who do I need to talk to that's going to help me put the financing together? And so that's where I ended up talking to a hard money lender on the first position. They ended up funding 90% of the purchase price and 100% of the construction costs. And then I said, okay, so I have this 10% balance remaining. In addition to, I don't have any money in my savings account that I'm going to be able to make this mortgage payment to the first lender. So I'm going to need to raise money for the 10% and the holding costs while I am flipping this house. And so I went out and I talked to, I think I got like 30 no's of like everybody saying, dude, like, you live at home with your dad, you have no credit, you have no money in the bank account. Like, what's your skin in the game on this? Right. And I was just determined and relentless that every no I knew was getting me closer to that $100,000 payday. There was no other option but to make it happen. And so I found that money, raised it, closed it, cashed in on that $106,000 check. And I said, okay, if I can continue to find opportunities like this, I know that I'm going to have some great opportunity to build this life that I want to build. But that first deal of, being scared and, all the fears and the doubts and I'm experiencing all these same fears and doubts all over again in the commercial side of real estate, which is great, right? It's humbling. And it's exciting. And I also think that in these moments of pressure is really where we learn and find out who we are and what we're made of. Like when my stepmom died, I had pressure to show up for my dad and for my family and for myself in a way that I knew was going to teach me about who I was and what I was made of. When I got arrested, when I got expelled from high school, whether it's, getting married, like whatever it is, we all experience pressure on a daily basis. And I've kind of started to learn to change my psychology with the pressure and the fear of saying, this is where I'm going to learn something about myself that's going to get me a little bit closer to the greatness that I know I have within me. And do I believe that every day? Yes. And do I doubt that every day? Yes, I do. And it's just one of those things where anytime I feel that fear of the unknown, I don't know about you guys, but I know we've all done things in our life. What we're doing today, oftentimes, if you stop and look at all the things that you're doing today, was once a stretch for the old you. It was once something that was probably scary. Something in what you do today that's normal for you was once something that was scary and fearful for you. And so for me, I've kind of learned to change this narrative with the fear of the unknown going, that looking back from previous experiences, pushing into and through those things that I was scared of, and then going, like, touch my body, my heart's still beating, like my wife still loves me, my kids still think I'm awesome, like I'm still alive. okay, like that fear now turned into a little bit more confidence. And so now this idea of going, anytime I'm scared, anytime I feel those fears going, that's the area I got to push into. As long as it's aligned with my goals and it's not somebody pointing a gun at my face and like the fear of actually, true physical harm and bodily injury, I know that I'm going to come out a little bit more weaponized, a little bit more optimized, a little bit more data that I can use to my advantage on how I can go out and continue navigating this landscape and world that I'm living in to create the life that I want. And so that first deal, I was scared shitless. And that also gave me the confidence to go out there and know that I have the abilities within me to solve problems if I want the solution bad enough.
Yeah, I love that. And I completely resonate with that. And I highly recommend that to all of our listeners is like, think about what you're doing today. And I love that, how you brought that up. Think about what you're doing today, because, 9 times out of 10, what you're doing today would have scared the hell out of you 6 months
Right.
ago. And I can speak to that with everything that we're doing in our business. I mean, the goals we're setting now, even 6-8 months ago would have been like, whoa, Evan, like slow down. Like, that's kind of crazy. Don't you think? Like, you've never done that before. But I think it's arming yourself with the right tools of getting the right mentors. That's like
Big.
A1.
Number one for me.
Yeah, that's biggest in my book as well. It's like you need to be surrounding yourself with people that have already done what you want to be doing, because that's the only way you can get further faster, is by aligning yourself with them, and then learning as much as you can about it, but then progressively failing forward. Like you said earlier, it comes down to like, you got to take little bits of action and just move the needle every day. And that's how you're going to actually get to your goals. It's not by like just reading a bunch of books. That helps, but you have to add in that action piece
100%.
and that mentorship piece.
Yeah, you can't learn yourself to death. There will all, I mean, like you and I would attest to this. We're learning every single day. And if we waited to know everything we think we need to know to get started, we would not be where we're at today. And you look at all the people that are extremely, extremely successful, is they know, this equation of, this is one of the things that I think, if you do this, if you mix coachability and learning with discipline and action, that's where growth exponentially, in my opinion, is going to be inevitable. And you just got to, you got to be careful of how much people love to consume and kind of feel like the consumption is actually moving the needle forward. And that can be a facade that can kind of be a lie, in my opinion. I especially in the world we live in today, where there's so much information out there, and podcasts and YouTube videos and Facebook groups and courses. And it can be very easy to feel like because you're learning, you're growing. And at the end of the day, I also base growth off of results. Like, you got to get results in order to feel like you're really seeing the progress of your life materialize into physical things that you can be proud of and that you can feel excited about, because that will only kind of fulfill you so long if you're just feeding the internal flame and not seeing any of that materialize in your external world.
Yeah. I just read Atomic Habits. And James Clear talked about, I forget how he worded it, but he basically said the same thing. He's like, you need to differentiate the learning side of it versus the action side of it, and realize you need both. But it's really the time where you're taking action and moving the needle, making like real progress towards your goals, is where that's where your biggest return on investment of your time is.
Totally agree.
So I love that you brought that up. And I think too, with everything that we're doing, like what you're going through right now, you said you're kind of pushing the needle on the commercial space. What are you doing to best prepare and get in the best possible spot to succeed in that part of your business?
Yeah, so I'm definitely working on skilling up in the areas that I know I need to skill up in, that are going to be a part of kind of my DNA as a new commercial investor. So for example, the number one area that I know I need to skill up in is my confidence and analysis and deal structuring on these larger 10, 20, 30, 50, $100 million opportunities. So I know that if I can speak that language with confidence and navigate that landscape with confidence like I can in the single family space, that I feel like, I don't want to say I've mastered it, but I put in my 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
I've seen and been in and out of over 1,000 sides. I've seen enough to have enough reps to where it's kind of second nature for me. Whereas, it's like sitting down to a chessboard. If you've never played chess obsessively and got in hundreds of games, you know what chess is, right? But you sit down to that chessboard and you may not know what every piece does, and you may not know how they move, and you may not know the strategy to win, and you may not know how to navigate against the competition,
Yeah.
right? But you have an idea. Well, I'm sitting down to a new chessboard and I need to learn all of these things all over again until it becomes second nature for me. And so that's really how I'm approaching this, is going, I need to skill up and learn and kind of sharpen my axe, that I know I'm going to be swinging at this vertical of commercial real estate and at least storage and multifamily. And then I know that I need to continue to really build out a brand. I don't want to say a brand new network, but I need to continue to now build out strategic alliances and partnerships and relationships in this space, because that's what made me successful on the other side, was all the people that, helped me avoid pitfalls that they had on flipping houses, and to connect dots on raising capital, and to finding contractors, and to all the things that I didn't have then. It really oftentimes came through those strategic relationships and partnerships and putting myself out there. And just, I look at it like, and I tell people this, on the single family side is, and I know it applies really in any area of life, if you want to just put it in the context of life, is I look at relationships like raw dirt. And I'm a farmer. And my mentality is, I'm looking to plant seeds for a lifetime, not just for a season. And so I am now in this commercial world looking at a whole plot of land that's just raw dirt. And eventually my vision for that is that there's going to be tall crops there with all kinds of juicy fruit that I can just walk through, because I've planted those seeds, I've nurtured those seeds, I've watered those seeds, I've tended to my crop day in, day out for years upon years upon years, that now I have this plentiful farm that I can just walk up and down the rows of the crops that I've created and the relationships that I've built, and find ways of connecting dots and picking low-hanging fruit. But that takes time and repetition, and I'm impatient and as well as patient, in the sense of, I know that I can hurry up to do the things that I know I can control, but I have to be patient enough to, see the fruits of those labor, come to fruition, because it just takes time. So that's really what I'm working on, and on this side of the fence of going, all right, I know there's definitely areas that I can control and skilling up, and my relationships. And then the other stuff is just consistently adding value to people and trusting that if I do that, I'm going to find my way into opportunities and conversations, just by being that item of value, that, sometimes you just don't get those things unless you're just in proximity to the right people.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you were able to put it into that analogy of like, hey, look, this is a long-term investment in something that is going to be a high producing part of your life and your lifestyle and your culture and your network and your group of people that you work with.
Yeah. I always tell people my mentality, and maybe it's just because I'm younger and you're younger, and it's kind of been this mentality from day one. And this is what my dad always taught me too, was like, you always do right by people and you play the long-term game. Like, this is a marathon made up of many strategic sprints. And I know that I'm going to be doing this. I found my passion and love in real estate. And so, until my hand can't sign an RPA anymore, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, because it's a wealth building vehicle that I can pass on that wealth to future generations, obviously for many different advantages today, from a business perspective, from a lifestyle perspective, financial freedom, security, mailbox money, net worth growth, all that kind of stuff. So I found my passion in going, I'm going to do this forever. So I want to do it right. And so my mentality from day one has always been crock pot over microwave. I'm a millennial. I pace in front of the microwave. So I am impatient.
Yeah,
But
I love
at the end of
that.
the day, we all know that the microwave definitely doesn't spit out a dish that's as good as what you're going to get out of a crock pot. And so that's always my mentality, is going like, whatever I do, my relationship building, my, skills, my anything, it's
Yeah.
always going to come back to the foundation of, I want to make sure that whatever decision I make today, it's a decision that is aligned with me in 50 years. Not
Yeah.
just like, oh, I'm going to screw this person to make another 10K, which I see people do all the time in wholesaling deals, or they do
Yeah.
something out of integrity or ethics and it kills 5 years of their reputation that they work so hard to build up. Integrity, ethics, foundation is my foundation, and it will always be the long-term crockpot mentality over the microwave, because I want to make sure that I'm doing this for the right reasons and I'm going to be around for a long time.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I think that's the mindset people should be embracing more often, is having that, like, hey, look, this is a long run game. This is a marathon. Like, I got to be investing my time and energy and my name into something I'm going to be proud of, 10, 20, 50 years from now.
100%. And I think that's just the greatest thing that I've seen some of my mentors do, that they've taught me, is, legacy is not, it's not about the apples you can eat. It's more about the trees you can plant. And whether that is, deals that you're doing, whether that's coaching or mentoring somebody else, my mentality on mentorship, and why I created The Rich Life and why I have the Millionaire Mindcast, because those are things that really are aligned with some of my core values and my passions and what fulfills me and what I want to, share and impact with other people as well, is this idea of like, we as human beings, I don't know, did you ever play with the barrel of monkeys back in the day?
Oh yeah.
Little plastic figures, the barrel of monkeys, the monkey always has one arm linked up and one arm linked down. And my mentality is, I'm always looking for that next person who's going to level me up to the next level. And I'm also got one arm down, trying to pull people up with me that want to get up to that next level themselves. And so I feel like if you're always looking to get on an elevator that's going to take you up to the next level, and you're always looking to make sure you send it back down, people that align with that type of mentality, they want to help you succeed. And those people are always going to continue growing as well. So you find that airstream of people that are kind of on a rocket ship going up. You're going to be able to ride that rocket ship with them. But the cool thing is you're also going to be able to bring a lot of people with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And you segued very well into what I wanted to ask you next, was really going into the rich life and what that means to you, and how that came about.
Yeah, I was, we know some mutual friends in this mastermind group. I was fortunate enough to get connected to this mastermind group called Go Abundance. It's a millionaire mastermind group. They have all men's group. They have an all women's group now. They even have Fambundance, which is for families that are entrepreneurial. And these 6 pillars, which are financial freedom, they are horizontal income, they are age-defying health, extreme accountability, genuine and authentic relationships, and genuine contribution. And then they kind of do it all with bucket list adventures. So all the masterminds are doing really cool, fun, action-based things. But what we mastermind on is obviously building your wealth, your business, financial freedom, setting goals, holding yourself accountable to those things, being a better husband, better father, better leader in your business or your community, giving back to charities and causes. It's great to make a lot of money, even better to be able to give it away. And it just really resonated with me, because when I joined this first, this was before it really kind of like exploded into what it is today. I was, I think, member number 12. Now they're at 180 or something like that.
Wow.
And I remember going to one of the founders' houses, David Osborne. And at this time I was 25. I was, I was making decent money. I was I'd broken that milestone, and was, more ego driven than kind of like, I guess, more well-rounded in that sense. And I remember walking into that room, and at the end of that experience and hearing a lot of these guys talking, you know, I was 25. Most of the guys were 40 to 50 years old. And they were further down the path than me. And there were really two people I saw in that room. One was, well, all of them were financial killers. So they were all financially abundant. But then I saw that they were millionaires on paper, but they were bankrupt in their health. They were overweight and unhealthy. They were bankrupt. They didn't give any money away to anybody. They just cared about themselves. They were estranged from their wives and their kids. They were just working all the time and saying that they were, you know, businessmen and they had a family. And really, they just didn't spend any time with them. And there was another group of guys, which I call the whole life millionaire now, which is somebody who was living like a millionaire on paper, but they were living just as intentionally as they did in their business as they did with their wives, with their kids, with their employees, with their health, with their ability to give back to charities and causes. And so they were living like a millionaire in almost every pillar of life. And I was like, I want to be like that person. That resonates with me. That's the life that I want to have. And that's what inspired me to start the Millionaire Mindcast podcast, of interviewing people that were just like that, where they were killers in business, and hearing about their entrepreneurial journey, but also how they balance life and all the other aspects of what I believe is important for a fulfilled, rich life. And so that's where I came up with the acronym of RICH, which was, if you have rich relationships, personal and professional, if you have this rich focus on your income and your investments, if you have rich intention behind your community and contributing to others, and rich intention with your health, mental, physical, and spiritual, if you put in the work on those pillars of your life, you're going to unlock what I believe is your definition, because everybody has a different definition of wealth and richness, of being rich. And it doesn't always equate to money, but at the end of the day, let's not lie. Money is a big, important piece of that is going to allow you to amplify your impact and your influence and your ability to have fulfillment and freedom in all those other areas. And so when I kind of came up with that, you know, formula, it resonated with a lot of people, and they were like, you know, I love this. I want to build my own rich life.
Yeah.
And that's where the Rich Life just came about. And that's where the Rich Life Planner was kind of created, and building the right habits and intentions and goal setting around those things and tracking them accordingly. So that way you can go back, get that feedback, double down on the things that are working, scrap the distractions or the things that aren't serving you, and really just continue to optimize yourself to have awareness in a way that gives you the ability, through that awareness, to just create more intention, and through that action and executing on those plans, actually start to unlock and materialize your definition of a rich life. And it's pretty cool to see how many people's lives have changed when they went from chasing money to chasing this idea of having a rich, balanced, fulfilling life. Because when one of those areas is maybe down or dipping, you see the other areas find a way to pull it back up. And so that's where it's, instead of going all in on one pillar of life, really finding this definition of balance for each person, because your balance may look different than my balance. My balance looks different from the next person's balance, but it's, again, just a framework that people can use to create more awareness and clarity on what that means to them, and then go out and build it.
That's amazing, man. I love that, the 4 pillars, and how it really is like a whole life millionaire. Because that's, at the end of the day, I think anyone listening to Monumental, all of our listeners, they're looking for that whole life millionaire lifestyle and life of impact, right? Like they want more than just money. They want service. They want health. They want happiness with family. They want contribution. And that's so important to not forget those sides of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to get lost in a world that we constantly have noise around us. Like, one of my intentions this year that I wrote down on one of my 2020 annual goals was silence and faith. I always set like themes and intentions for the year. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I felt called to and that I needed more of was I needed more quiet and reflection time. As much as, you know, I love and desire to go fast and to be around noise, I find power in my thoughts and in my body and my
Yeah.
spirit when I take time to rest and reflect in silence and get connected to God, and, to just give myself the ability to ask the questions that give me the clarity to take the next steps that I feel are aligned with me, knowing that in this world we live in and how noisy it is, and we have hooks in us that are pulling us in so many different directions, we often get pulled out of congruency with who we really are at our core, and we lose sight of like what is really important to you. What is your, definition of a rich life? Whether that is like, hey, if you're traveling the world 6 months out of the year, but you're barely making ends meet, but you're happy as shit, like, awesome, go build that life. If it's, hey, I want $100 million in the bank. Okay, cool. How do we build that for you? But I just feel like it's very easy to get opted into other people's desires and definitions and opinions of what you should have in your life and create in your life and how you should live your life. That this gave me the ability to kind of put two hands back on the steering wheel of my own life and say, I'm driving this car and I'm deciding where this car goes. And that's all I really want. Do I make every right turn or take detours? Absolutely, every day. But at least I know that I'm in control of that fate and that destiny. And that's really what's important to me right now.
That's awesome. And that seems in line with my theme of 2020 as well, which is relentless focus.
I like that.
Because it's so true. We get pulled in so many directions, and we tend to lose sight of where we're actually want to put our focus, and putting those blinders on and saying, hey, I know. And also even like in the moment, right? Like in the very moment that you're in right now, like putting focus into this, not being distracted by the present or the future or the past. And just being present and focused on that moment.
Well, it's where I get the best of Evan. You get the best of me. When my kids get the best of me, when I'm present. Like, presence in a physical space doesn't mean you're present, and that's the hardest part of an entrepreneur. And you're trying to build big things. There's always something to be done. There's always somebody to call. There's always a problem to solve or a fire to put out, a bill to be paid. Like this life that we have chosen, for any of you who are listening, who are in this space and can relate to this, or are aspiring to have this life, just know that it's 100% possible for you. And it's also a path that, most people start walking on and go back and convert to playing small in. And I think by having leaders like Evan and communities to plug in and spaces that continue to inspire you to think bigger and to push through the challenges and to know that you're not alone, like this path of where we want to go to has a lot of pain on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you look at every massively successful entrepreneur, Oprah, Rock, like you go down the list, Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, whoever you like to follow, if we all pulled off our shirts and the metaphor of like life and business beating you up, we all have our own scars, right? And so it's just, how do you continue to push through those challenges and have the right counsel and people around you to give you the confidence when you need it most, and maybe you don't have it in yourself, or to give you the tools or the resources that you might be looking for that maybe you can't see in that moment, to connect you. There's so many. So that's where I really have invested in my network and rely on, people that I've built up trust and shared experiences with, because it can feel lonely. You hear a lot of people say what we're doing, this business, it's not for the faint of heart, which it isn't. And it's a lonely road. And it's only lonely if you don't find the people who are on the same path as you. Like I know that now I've got a lot of people I can call on, and I don't feel lonely because, so it only feels lonely in certain spurts, but just know that if you put your head up and you look around and you ask the right questions and you seek out the right people, it won't be lonely. Like you'll find what you're looking for, but there's just some pain that you got to push through on a daily basis. But it's worth it.
I love it, man. Well, I feel like we could keep going and going, Matt, but let's jump into our monumental questions.
Let's do it.
What does success mean to you?
To me, I've had this question asked to me a handful of times on podcasts, and I think one of the best ways I could ever sum it up is, to me, success has nothing to do with how many units I develop or how many properties I own or what my net worth is. Like, to me, my ultimate definition of success is literally being on my deathbed and looking theoretically in the rear view mirror of my life and looking back at everything that's played out and going, damn, that was a hell of a ride. Like, if I can say that, because again, there's a lot of failures in there. Like, that's not going to define the wins or the losses, won't define my definition of success. What my definition of success will be is I have no regrets. I left it all out on the field. Like, I left no stone unturned. I don't have any I woulda, shoulda, couldas.
Yeah.
I look back on my life and go, damn, the highs, the lows, holy shit, that was a hell of a ride. Thank God for that. Thank you for that experience. I'm ready to go.
Sayonara.
Sayonara. Signing off.
That's amazing. What about daily habit or morning rituals?
So I'm very obsessive over that. And people, if you have my planner, the Rich Life Planner, know that I have a very structured and regimented morning and evening routine. But my daily is really, I'm up by 4 o'clock every single day. I'm in the office by 5:30. In between then and when my day gets started, it's, just making sure, shower, brush your teeth, important, green shake, just to kind of get my pH balanced for the day. And then my affirmations on the way in on my commute, audiobook on the way in on my commute. When I get in, I'll immediately sit for a meditation. I'll journal for about 5 or 10 minutes after that. I find that's kind of my most peaceful time and clear-headed thoughts. I will send 5 love or appreciation texts to friends or family members every day, just to come from a place of gratitude and to kind of gift them some love, as well as it makes me feel good. But I know how when I get text messages or things like that are kind of out of the blue or random, it just makes me feel thought of and acknowledged. So I do that. I will write out my top 5 to-dos for the day. I'll update my lead sheet. I'll say some gratitude, and I'm off and running.
Boom. That's phenomenal. What about a favorite book or book you're currently reading?
I mean, I have a lot of favorite books. My library is pretty extensive. I would say the one that I'm reading right now, just because of the hotel that I'm been working on, is Exceptional Service, Exceptional Profit, which I think honestly applies to any service-based business that has customers. Was written by the CEO of the Ritz-Carlton, the gold standard of customer service, and just some amazing stuff in there that I believe is great for customer acquisition and retention, and just over-delivering on the experience for your customers that you are, or clients that you're working with. So that's a book that I'm reading right now that I definitely recommend. That's
awesome. Well, Maddie, I feel like, you brought massive, massive value today to our Monumental listeners. I really appreciate you for that. And I feel like we may need to do a follow-up episode for some of these, diving deeper into some of these other topics. But how can our Monumental listeners reach out to you or follow you?
They can go over to the richlifeacademy.com for any information on Rich Life stuff. Millionaire Mindcast is on all platforms. We broke into the top 25 entrepreneur podcasts this year, top 100 business podcasts. So that was pretty cool. And then on Instagram is really where I spend most of my time, official Matty A. Always love connecting with people that I listen to a podcast, say what up. I respond back all the time to anybody and everybody. So I just want to acknowledge you, Evan, for having me on the show and all the great stuff that you're up to, man. Your approach, your integrity, and just your ability to add value to people and connect people is world-class, man. So grateful for you too.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Guys, if you're listening right now, take Matt up on all of that. He's bringing massive, massive value. He puts out some awesome content on Instagram, a stellar podcast. Go check out the Rich Life Planner. He's just trying to help you live your best life. And that's what we're all about here at Monumental. So I really appreciate you, Maddie. And guys, if you are listening, make sure to also share it on social media. Tag Matt, tag me. Let us know you're listening. And with that, have a monumental day.